Find myself near the Idaho border, back in the Jarbidge, for a much deeper dive this time. And it looks very promising indeed. This is the promised land. It's full of steppe, it's full of tundra, I believe. Pockets of cryophyllid forest as well, boreal forest, subalpine forest. It's truly mesmerizing country, and I'm barely in. I'm still on the dirt track. There's a supposedly extensive trail system in there. It's time to just go roaring through it, learn a lot of new stuff. It's not like I've visited the Idaho border much before, so floristic component in some ways will be new to me. Old Samariza tells you we're on the steppe. Not much of a PJ zone this far north, at least at these elevations. North of the rubies it seems to evaporate. Quite hard to access this area. Want some high clearance for sure, or just walk a few extra miles. Lots of up and downs on a very narrow track. Overgrown as well. There's a trailhead up the Marys River basin this way. Curious to see if there's any cars. This is quite a remote place, but nonetheless occasionally visited. It's immediately obvious that this is a much wetter place than most any we've been to so far. Even low here, 7,000 feet or so, it's quite green. Quite green higher in the bottoms. The tundra ahead, we'll see how it looks this year. Snow or not, I haven't really gotten a good view yet. Got naverretia breweri growing in the middle of the track here. It's dry and cracked, but looks like it was wet not too long ago. Remember the Polemoniaceae? This is a group of gilia-like things that tend to have pointy leaf tips. This is a unique species by its yellow flowers. A lot of the smaller polemones don't have yellow flowers. Other species of naverretia, gilia, hypomopsis, etc. Probably Aliciella. Not a lot of yellow flowers in this group of polemones. Definitely seems dry and a little past prime down here. We got some sterile Samarizas over there. That stock tank is really low. Gauge drought by the water level, I suppose, of the Marys River below. Excited to see it. But it's definitely not bad, and higher up I expect things to be pretty much prime. Some kind of ranch operation over there. Sometimes it's good to know that there's people out here that can help you in a bind. Mechanical or any other issues, you know what I mean? Jelly bean. It's the sound of flowing water. We don't get to hear that too often out here, do we? $10,000 ago, you can imagine all of the Great Basin having water like that. Just in the lower mountains. There were probably glaciers here. I'm sure we'll see what more evidence or not of that higher up, whether there's cirques or not and such. Sheeps of the valleys. Very steppy right here, though. This place is called Chalk Basin. If you ever needed to find a piece of heaven on earth. Just the first of many deep dives into the Jarbidge in my life, I predict. This is the end of the road. It's into the wilderness now. Quite humid out. My goodness. Here's the trailhead. Very remote. Almost nothing here. Scarcely even parking spaces. There's a trail up into the who knows what. Got lots of gooseberries and fruit. Ribes aureum here. Lobes don't incise as deeply as in a lot of other gooseberries. Spineless. Very distinct gooseberry. Find it along wetter bottoms. Left my rain jacket in the car. Now I'm strongly questioning that decision. Very much a Cercocarpus and sagebrush steppe. It's a robin with a lot more diversity found in the canyon bottom. First furs. It's quite a bit of allness and holodiscus. Roses. Standby roses of waters of the north. Wouldn't be waters if there weren't roses, and vice versa. Some other cool stuff. Aspens occasionally. Holodiscus blooming profusely out there underneath those cliffs. That's all you can see. It's almost reminiscent of another place I really love, the South San Juans of Colorado, where I conducted my first inventory, my first scientific study of all, independently that is. And there I first met holodiscus in a similarly volcanic and rugged and steep and cliffy, rocky and gateway to the Alpine Canyon. There were probably cottonwoods in there too. And roses and alnus. A lot of the same species, even. I'm almost hard-pressed to remember the last time I crossed a river this big. It must have been over a year ago. It could have even been closer to 2 years ago now. Honestly, can't remember the last one as big as this. It certainly could have been up to 3 years ago, which is pretty crazy. It's big enough that I'll either have to take off my shoes. Not enough dry rocks to skip along, or find a narrower crossing up here. Stunning displays of Hypomopsis aggregata. Unlike further south this year, we only see one or two this year. Senecio. Another crossing. This is the greenest place I've been in a very long time. Maybe even since I was in Nicaragua a year and a half ago. Seriously, look how green this place is. Certainly greener than any place in the snakes last year. The Mojave super plumes. The super plumes, super blooms, do not get this green. So that basically leaves Nicaragua and Ruby Mountains 2 years ago were pretty darn green as well. Still quite steppy here, but the peaks of the Jarbidge begin ahead. They look a lot more complicated than the steppe here. Feels great to be here. Lots of birds singing. Howling out of the forest and out of the steppe both. Too many mosquitoes. Oh well. There's no water to worry about out here for the most part, I'm predicting. The trails are nice so far. So it's really, there's no crowds. It's kind of a perfect wilderness. Mary's River here eventually merges with the Humboldt, which ends at a sink near Reno. Never flows to the ocean. However, along some divide ahead, we'll be in the Snake River drainage, and therefore officially not in the Great Basin, no matter how much it may appear similar to the Great Basin. Those waters, it's a different watershed. It's a very important dividing line. Not sure which ridge it is yet, but we'll find out. About to cross West Fork for the last time, for a couple days at least, a few days more like it, and head up the valley of the East Fork. Come back, loop back along the West Fork again here. Following a faint trail up the East Fork Basin. And that's just the very beginning of what should be a spectacular trip to come. Alpine scenery ahead. Leaving Mary River Valley, for now at least. That's the East Mary River specifically. Still in the drainage, of course. Mary's Peak is high and volcanic ahead. Trail is, it's okay. Fades out a lot. Generally navigable though. Occasional cairns help out. Overgrown and faded, but still usable. Very much cool steppe here. Not exactly cold today. Punctuated. Occasional aspen and such. Maybe some firs starting to come in. If you're not looking carefully, you could walk into a pretty big patch of stinging nettle in these parts. Already happened to me at one crossing, not a great big patch, but a lone individual. It's mixed with gooseberries and veratrums. Veratrum looking pretty terrible this year. Drought-stricken and eaten to death. Surrounded by nettles. All these taxa-like moist soils. Stunning displays of Hypomopsis aggregata. Unlike further south this year, we only see one or two this year. Senecio. Another crossing. Well, some of the veratrum has been totaled. Can't tell why or by what. Others of it is thriving. Just starting to bloom. These things are about 3 meters tall. Some of the tallest herbs in the entire state, of course. A lot of them are still in bud. These ones are diseased or eaten or otherwise afflicted too, but they're managing to flower first. I don't know if they'll go to fruit because whatever's afflicting them looks quite terrible. Nothing afflicting the nettles to any big degree. Heading northwards towards Idaho. Trails here and there, but not everywhere. Fades out in the wetter areas. It's only kind of a problem because I had to get a new GPS this week after 13 years of service with the old one. The screen failed at the end of my last trip. Anyway, the new one doesn't have as good of topos loaded onto it, which I didn't quite understand. So it's not showing any tributaries, for example, except for the major forks of the Mary. None of the stuff ahead, for example. To say it's pretty important that I maintain on the trails. There's not even springs labeled on the new topos, so this is the best place to not have springs labeled, where there's unnamed tributaries still flowing. Early July here. It's incredible that the greatest alpine wildernesses of Nevada are so unused. I doubt I'll really see anyone out here. And the condition of the trails resembles parts of the East Humboldts, where access is a bit more complicated by private property, but some trails going through truly spectacular terrain there as well. Fade away or very poorly used and under-maintained. Although it looks fine now here, doesn't it? Right here, trails disappeared. So what I'm doing to cope with this pattern is just assuming where it heads, ending up correct. Assuming it's headed up towards the low pass, east of Mary's River Peak. It'll show up again somewhere. Basically picks up again right here. Keeps fading in and out. Sometimes I'm missing it for a lot longer than a minute or two. Like right here. Mostly steppes. Pockets of forest on the north faces. Some of it abies. And it looks a heck of a lot like Mongolia in these parts. The steppes transitioning directly up into the alpine or pockets of subalpine forest. Landscape mostly steppe. If it weren't for the species compositions, that Eriogonum here, for example, could easily convince ourselves that we're in Central Asia right now. Got some garbage, even in the Jarbidge. Some of this very specific garbage. Ubiquitous helium balloon. Mostly not garbage in the Jarbidge. Fairly perfect walking conditions out here. Got occasional tributaries that will be dry in a month but are not dry yet. Sustaining woodland creatures like chipmunks and other ground squirrels. Yet at the same time, the trails are generally dry and at the same time not very dusty either. So they're in that perfect period after snows have thawed and made everything wet. You don't get such greenery in the west without snow. Yet summer is not advanced so much that I'm just kicking up clouds of dust with every step. Doesn't get much better than this in Nevada, folks. terms of ease and enjoyment of walking. It's found a very well-used camp. It's even got cooking grates and everything. Big pile of firewood ready to go. This water is about to go away for the season, but the veratrum is a lot healthier looking here, paradoxically. It's not perfect looking, but it's looking good. Common name corn lilies, since the leaves are corn-like. But they are indeed lilies and not grasses or lily-like things. They're not in the Liliaceae actually, but closely related family. The traditional lilies. Lilies with 6 showy tepals. Three styles or stigmas. Six stamens. Usually double the stigma number. Usually the same as the tepal number. No petals and sepals in the monocots, just one or more series of tepals.